Hi, I'm Diana Reese of the Inland Urban Forest Council, a nonprofit that works to expand tree canopies of inland Southern California. If you are a homeowner wondering how to take care of your tree, this short video demonstrates some basics about correct pruning. Also, you will learn about communicating with pruning companies to ensure the health and long life of your tree. Gardening at home doesn't always require a helmet, but a professional tree care contractor knows to always take safety precautions. Chris and Raquel Falco, board members of the IUFC, demonstrate the correct way to prune a branch.
When we're pruning trees, we always want to have a reason to prune trees. We don't prune trees without a reason. There is no prune a tree just because it needs to be pruned. So there's two types of cuts: removal cuts, reduction cuts, and heading cuts. When you're cutting, what we like to do first is make an undercut. Okay? And then when I make another cut towards the outside of the branch, this undercut will prevent any tears into the trunk tissue. So let's say we want to reduce this branch, it's growing too long. What I can do is I can take the length of the limb back to another branch. So I want to remove this branch. I'm going to take it back to this branch. Now this branch you reduce it to should, be at least a third the size of that, if not the same size, which this one happens to be. An inappropriate cut, which somebody might have done, is what we call a heading cut, and I'm going to show you what that looks like. There are only a few times when heading cuts are appropriate, and they have to do with maybe training really young trees or sometimes preserving wildlife habitat. I just cut basically in the middle of a branch. I didn't reduce it to another branch, I just left the stub. So that is not an acceptable cut, and if people are pruning like that, there needs to be a good reason. When you use this type of cut, a heading cut, to lower the height of a whole tree, it's called topping. And it's a common practice, unfortunately, that is bad for a tree.
I wanted to take this opportunity to show you what happens when a tree is not pruned properly using a heading cut. You will note that there are 6 of the branches that grew from that cut. Oftentimes the tree will produce a lot more branches that result in weak attachments and can result also in failures. When homeowners top a tree, they often do so to reduce the size of a tree. Unfortunately, because the food of the tree is removed, the tree will often go into survival mode, in which case the tree will produce a lot more branches to try to survive and make up for all the foliage that has been lost.
And the last cut, which you can read about in our pruning brochure, we want to try to preserve something called the branch bark ridge. That tissue kind of separates the trunk from the branch, and if you cut at the branch bark ridge, you can prevent decay from moving into the trunk as readily. So this branch is a little tricky, but what I don't want to do is cut it flush with the trunk, because that's called a flush cut. That's injurious. So I'm going to kind of try to find this branch bark ridge. There's a little branch coming my way that was removed that makes it a little difficult, but try to keep in line with it. Okay, so that's what we call a removal cut. Well, we try to make as minimal injuries to the trunk as possible. So in most cases, if we can reduce a branch out towards the ends of the branch, that's preferable, because injuries on the trunk could turn into decay and other issues. So we try not to have direct injuries on the trunk, but if you have to do it, preserve the branch bark ridge.
A contractor that is a certified arborist will know these cuts and will rarely, if ever, use a heading cut. By pruning your tree properly, you usually prevent hazards and greater pruning expense in the future. Over pruning and topping is harmful. Beware of any contractor who advertises this service or tries to justify it as an acceptable way to manage tree size. Save money in the long run and make sure your contractor is licensed, insured, and a certified arborist. Learn more about proper pruning the best times to prune, and how to protect nesting wildlife in the free publication, A Practical Guide to Tree Pruning, How Not to Get Clipped.
Thanks for hanging out with us.